morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on a wonderful Wednesday. And I hope that you will join us, guys. 10 a.m. Bible study this morning. Going to be good. This evening, 6 o'clock, we got prayer meeting and Bible study, youth and children's activities, choir practice. Just keep in mind, no supper tonight, so eat before you come. But right now, I want you to join me in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, picking up in verse 11. Listen to what Paul says. O Corinthians, we have spoken openly to you. Our heart is wide open. You are not restricted by us, but you are restricted by your own affections. Now, in return for the same, I speak as to children, you also be open. Paul is taking his role as their spiritual father very seriously. He says, I have poured out my heart to you, my life, everything transparent. I've just given everything for you. And he says, understand, I'm not trying to hem you in. I'm not trying to box you in. He says, you're not restricted by us, but you are restricted by your own affections. Well, what does that mean? Their choice. What do they like? What do they want? Their desires are keeping them from experiencing the greatest gifts that God has for them. The joy of their salvation, the grace that provides that salvation, the wisdom that comes from trusting in God. And Paul says, I'm speaking to you as children. You need to be open. You need to be open to us. You need to be open to the Father. You need to be open to the Holy Spirit. Now, here's the thing. Paul is trying to get them to see a very important truth about their lives. So many times as Christians, we make our decisions, our determinations. We decide this is the way it's going to be and nothing else matters. Well, God sends us godly counselors, wise counselors into our lives to help us to see what we need to do. He gives us wisdom to help us make those decisions. He gives us the ability to trust in Him, but we must be open to that. And that's what Paul is asking for. He's saying, listen to me as your spiritual father, as the apostle to the Gentiles. Now, here's the important message. Here's what he's been trying to get at all along. Because apparently there's some issues there in Corinth. There always had been, and there still were. Look at verse 14. He says, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Now, what's he talking about? Well, understand, we tend to make that about marriage, and it is about marriage. A Christian should not marry an unbeliever. A believer should not marry an unbeliever. That's just the way it is. Guys, gals, I'm going to tell you, you say, well, listen, I'm going to marry them, and then I'm going to change them. I'm going to help them to find Jesus. Not going to happen. 9 times out of 10, it is not going to happen. In fact, what typically happens is that the unbelieving spouse pulls the believing spouse away from their relationship with the Lord. Now, if in the marriage one gets saved and the other doesn't, you don't leave it. But Paul is saying when you're going into marriage, don't marry an unbeliever. But that's not all that he's talking about here. In business relationships, contracts that you sign, what he's saying is if you're going to live the Christian life, make sure that all of your connections are with those who are believers. Now, here's why. He says, for what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? And what communion has light with darkness? Look, here's the thing. And you know this as well as I do. One of the Proverbs says that bad company corrupts good morals. You want an evidence of that? You look at a school, right? You've got well-behaved children in the classroom, and you add one child who is rebellious, who is stubborn, who is mean-spirited, and I'm going to tell you what, he's going to stir up problems in that classroom. And even the good kids are going to be pulled into his orbit. Well, same thing is true in our lives as we grow older, as we get married, as we start businesses. Paul says light does not have fellowship with darkness. Righteousness does not have communion with lawlessness. We must understand that as Christians, we need each other. We need each other to encourage, to support, to spur one another to love and good works. That's how Paul puts it. Listen, do not be unequally yoked in any of your relationships. But go into the world, to the lost world, and make disciples. That's the key. Think about that. See you back here tomorrow.